Hi there, it's Monday the 2nd of November 2020 and we're going to be looking at the life of Jesus over the next coming days and perhaps weeks as well leading up to Christmas time. It's very appropriate, of course, thinking about Jesus at Christmas time, but not just at Christmas time, but at every time of the year. Now, if I was to ask you a question, who's the nicest person that you've ever met or you've ever known? I wonder who you would say that is. Maybe somebody in your family perhaps, or perhaps a friend or a colleague or somebody that you've met, perhaps even a neighbour or somebody that lives nearby. But you know, Jesus, he was the nicest, kindest, most lovely person that you could ever meet. And the amazing thing is that Jesus said that when you've seen me, you've seen the Father, you've seen God. So Jesus actually shows us what God is really like. If you want to know what God's like, then you look at the life of Jesus and you look at what he said, you look at what he did, you look at the way that he interacted. And we're so blessed as people of the world to have the Bible, to have Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, 4 Gospels, 4 short selective biographies of the life of Jesus written by 4 of his closest friends, people that knew him well. And of course the whole Bible talks about Jesus from beginning to end in different ways, but particularly in Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, we can really understand what Jesus was like. And you know, he's just the most beautiful person ever. So you know, if you look at Mark's Gospel in chapter 1, it says, at that time, at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, when he was about 30 years old, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John, of course John the Baptist as he was known, in the Jordan. And as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven open and the Spirit of God descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, and of course this is God, his Father, speaking, and said, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." And at once the Spirit sent him out into the desert, and he was in the desert for 40 days, being tempted by Satan, and he was with the wild animals, and angels attended him. So Jesus was baptized. He didn't need to be baptized. We need to be baptized because of our sins. We need to be forgiven, and baptism is a sign of that forgiveness that comes from God. But Jesus didn't need to be baptized because he had never sinned. But he was doing it as an example to us of the way that we are to follow, because he is asking us to follow in his footsteps, to be like him. And you know, there's no greater thing in life that you can do than to be like Jesus and to try and follow in his footsteps. And Jesus was enabled by the Spirit of God. And we too can be enabled by God's Spirit to be like Jesus and to live the perfect kind of life that Jesus lived. So he was baptized. It showed great humility, being baptized, to show the way. People maybe thought, why is he being baptized? Has he sinned? But as I said, he hadn't done that. But he was showing great humility. He was identifying himself with us. That's how wonderful Jesus is. You know, he loves us closely, not from a distance. He became one of us. He came to earth, born as a baby, of course, as we celebrate at Christmas time, because he wanted to identify with us. He wanted to be like us, and so that we could identify with him, so that he was able to identify with our weaknesses, with our temptations. He was tempted in every way that we are, and yet didn't yield once to a temptation and never sinned. But he knows the challenges, the pressures of life, because he too faced all those pressures. He faced all those challenges and temptations. And of course God said, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I'm well pleased." Isn't it wonderful to have that affirmation in your life? If you have been blessed enough to have a father in your life who loved you and who was able to speak that blessing over you, or a mother in your life who loved you and was able to speak that over you, then you truly are blessed to have parents to declare their love for you. And God, Jesus Father, he was not shy at declaring his love for his Son. He said, I love you, son, and I'm pleased with you. You know, every boy wants to please his father, wants to have his father say, oh, you're a great runner, or you're a great climber, or you did that really well, and is always saying, Dad, look at me. Well, Jesus was baptized, and his father was looking at him, and his father was so pleased with Jesus. And Jesus' life was a life that was lived in love. He was characterized by love. He was the most loving man who has ever lived. If you struggle to know love in your life, then can I encourage you to get to know Jesus? He will be your greatest lover ever. He will never, ever stop loving you. What a wonderful, wonderful person Jesus is. God bless you today, and speak to you again tomorrow, thinking more about Jesus.